Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happiness Journey with Dr. Dan podcast, where every journey is worth living. My name is Dr. Dan, and I'm your host for today's episode. I'm a bilingual neuro-linguistic programming and cognitive behavior psychotherapist specializing in anger management issues, both court-appointed and private, marriage counseling using the EFT method, dissociative disorders, narcissistic personality disorders, depression, anxiety, dream analysis, and also provide life, business, and retirement coaching support. I provide individual one-on-one session in both French or English and also do group settings. If you need any assistance, reach out to DMV Therapy and Coaching Services at 301-325-1550, and our website can be found on lifecoachdanamzalai.com. Today, I'm very excited to have for our fifth episode of season 21 a very special guest and career coach, Annie Margarita Yang. And just like every of my past episode, I will leave it up to the guests to properly introduce themselves, as no one can do a better job. Annie, the floor is yours.
Dr. Dan, thanks for having me on. So, a little bit about me. I didn't go straight to college because I'm born to working class Chinese immigrants. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. And, I saw people back in 2012, they were graduating with about $25,000 in student loan debt. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to borrow any money because my parents always told me debt is bad for you. So I thought, okay, if my parents are telling me this, it must be right. And I saw everyone around me in high school, they were going off to prestigious universities, willing to borrow $100,000. I said, that's not the life for me. So I didn't go straight to college, just worked a whole string of minimum wage jobs. At that point, I wanted to figure out what my passion was because it didn't make sense to go to college to figure out who you were. I didn't want to pay money to figure out who I was. I wanted to
Good
earn
approach.
money,
Yes.
earn money, and while earning money,
You
even
find
if it's a
yourself.
little money, I find myself. I take some of that money. Maybe I go to the library, I read some books, I take some classes that I might be interested in, that are not necessarily traditionally taught in academia, maybe hairdressing, makeup, whatever it is, yoga, and find myself. And then if it requires schooling, then I will go to college. I discovered I really like money management. I eventually went to community college. I realized I hated finance majors, accounting. I hated that stuff. I enjoyed talking about money though, so I ended up doing a communications major,
Okay.
and then I got the bachelor's degree in communications. Came out, continued working minimum wage, so it wasn't what everyone told me it was, that ticket to success. And then, but I still like money. Like I enjoy money management. So then I somehow landed an accounting job without an accounting degree. I
Wow,
mean, it's
okay.
it's right for me. I mean, it's my talent is there. I just don't have the formal credentials. And I've been doing that ever since, basically. And I sometimes wonder, like, why is it? Am I special? Is there something special about me why I can do accounting jobs without an accounting degree? And I figured out that the difference was, I think I'm just one, I'm not scared to get rejected, right? Like I'm okay like reaching out to people, asking, finding out more information, seeing if we're a good fit. So I'm not afraid to put myself out there is the first thing. And then the second thing is um, I think I'm just good at marketing myself, basically. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what? It's interesting that you say that because you said when you went to do community college and you tried to do finance and accounting, you didn't like it, but yet you ended up in a job that has to do with accounting, which I find this to be pretty ironic. But then at this point, like most people, as you said, you love to put yourself out there, which is one of the key component to be able to get yourself out of this comfort zone. So as a career coach, how do you help people get out of their comfort zone to try things that are maybe not something they would even consider, but yet have not explored as of yet, that could be their passion?
Well, what I tell people is you don't know whether you like something until you try it. Like, for example, my sister, I know for a fact she's been writing like fan fiction since she was like maybe 10. She really likes anime, and I know she goes on these online forums writing fan fiction. So I know she knows how to write and edit. That's her talent.
Okay.
She's been doing it since she was young. She enjoys it. She had an English major in college. She came out and I asked her, "Well, what do you want to do with your life?" And then she was like, I don't know." I was like, "How do you not know? You literally spent like the last 10 years of your life writing. Like, why don't you do something related to this?" And her answer was, "Well, I'm scared that if I have to do it for a living, then it'll turn out that I don't like it, and then I do it just because I earn money doing it. So I don't want to pursue it and try. So I'd rather volunteer at this animal shelter or work at this bubble tea shop. And I was just like, this doesn't make sense, right? Because really you don't know until you do it. You find out after you do it, right? And so but I cannot force her to do it. That's the
No.
thing.
Yes.
I can guide her and tell her this advice, but in the end she has to take that step herself. So it's just like I like to try different things. Like I'll try and see if it works or not. So one of the things I'm actually thinking about is like I want to go to modeling school.
Okay.
Like I'm not like Miss Universe beautiful, and I probably won't win a beauty pageant or anything, but like I just like how a model has such posture. I like the way models walk with such confidence, and I'm like, I want to try that.
Yes.
Maybe it won't work out, but I want to give it a try. So it's the same mindset.
But I think the only difference that you have that many others do not is that you mentioned this earlier, that you accept possible rejection. A lot of people cannot really accept because it does hurt their ego or their self-esteem or self-worth, especially if they're already fragile as without any rejection. Imagine if that comes along, they just don't know if they're going to recover from it. So if we go into this slave mentality, that they're slave in their own mind because they're not trying to get out. They're not trying to open the gate that is so-called in their mind that is kind of closed, but yet is not locked. But yet they're too afraid to be able to take the first step to be able to make a change in their lives. So how do you let them know that the door is open, that there's opportunities, they just have to go through that door?
The first step is they just need to apply. Whatever it is that they want in life, well, what I specifically help people with is their career, right? They need to apply. That is like literally the first step. How do you win a lottery? How do you win the lottery? You buy the lottery ticket. If
You
you
have
don't
to,
buy
yeah.
the lottery ticket, you don't win the lottery. So it's the same thing. You have to apply. I I was so scared of rejection back then. I remember I applied for like 10 jobs, okay? And I thought that was a lot. And I got rejected by a bank that like I was like, there's no way I'm gonna get rejected. I meet 10 out of the 10 requirements. They're gonna call me back. You're great. You meet all of this. We're gonna call you in and you're gonna get an interview and you're gonna get the job. Like that's what I was envisioning in my head. And then within 24 hours, I got a rejection. And then I was like, why? I emailed them asking why, and they were just like, well, you didn't meet all the requirements. I was like, what do you mean I didn't meet all the requirements? And I was
Easy
crying
question.
about it
Okay.
for for 72 hours. Every hour I was talking to my husband, can you believe they did that? I was so hung up about it, and he got so sick of me crying. He's like, "Can you just stop? You need to grow a thicker skin." And then I was like, "What are you talking about? I have thick skin already." He's like, "No, you don't." And that was like a rude awakening for me. I'm really embarrassed by this moment, you know. But after that, I was like, you know what? Maybe I do need to grow a thicker skin. But I didn't grow a thicker skin from that. It wasn't until I I found out that this person who was replacing me at my job, I was going to move to a new city. So the person I was supposed to teach, she was replacing me. She claimed she knew how to use QuickBooks. She had experience with it. When I was teaching her, I realized she didn't know anything about the software.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she didn't know anything. I was getting paid 13 an hour. She was getting paid 17 an hour because she had confidence. She had the confidence to say, I know what I'm doing when she doesn't. And then I was like, hold on, I'm actually someone who knows how to do this, but I don't have the confidence to ask for more and to go apply for the things that I think are out of my reach, right? So when I moved to a new city, I said, nobody knows me here. I'm a new person. I can remake myself to whoever I want to be, right? And you don't just move to a new city and the city changes you. I think you change yourself, but I use that as
See
like the
that.
catalyst, basically. Yeah.
Yes.
And so when I moved there, I was just like, I am going to apply to 50 accounting jobs a day. I have no credentials in this. People can tell me I'm unqualified, but because of what I saw happen, that person was getting paid more than me with no experience. I was just like, there's no way I'm not capable of this. So I applied. I said, I don't care what people think, what their opinions are. I am capable. That's when I decided. And I managed to get a job offer in 7 days. So, but I thought that was luck. I played that to luck. I was like, wow, I'm just so lucky. I did it again in a few months. I did it in 6 days. I was like, God really blessed me. But then I did it again a year later. I did it in 5 days, and then when it happened 3 times in a row, I was just like, "This is skill. I'm clearly doing something right."
But do you think it's a numbers game then, Annie?
I
I mean,
think so.
more you send, more you get the, because a lot of people say that when it comes to sending resume, chances are most of the resume end up in the trash bin. So why do you feel that beside luck, you were able to increase your chances of getting approved or of getting hired?
Well, I wrote a really good the proper things need to be put in place, right? Like good branding on your LinkedIn. That's something the recruiters complained about. I had no LinkedIn. The recruiters would call me in my first search. They'd be like, "Where's your LinkedIn?" I don't have one. You got to get on LinkedIn. I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll get on LinkedIn," you know. So I did what they told me to do. I fixed up the resume, right? To have accomplishments in there and stuff like that. But beyond having that in place, which is something everyone can do, is the numbers game. People tell me like, "Oh, I applied to so many jobs. How many jobs did you apply to?" I applied to 5 a day. I applied to so many. I was like, "That's not enough."
Yeah.
It literally is a numbers game, and then the more you apply to and cast that wide net, the more likely you are to find success. Like for example, I got booked on 130 podcasts.
Okay.
Other guests are like, "How did you get booked on so many?" Like we struggled to even get booked on 10. And then I was like, well, I reached out to 514. Like
Yeah.
I literally have a spreadsheet with a list, and then we just literally go down this list and say whether we reached out with a message or not. And
Okay.
then out of that, 30% said yes. I applied to book awards. I applied to about 50 of them, right? Because I was like, well, I need to be able to call myself an award-winning author. I need that social proof, right?
Yes.
So I applied to 50. I was like, I don't know who's gonna say you win an award, so I said I might as well apply to all of them,
That's true.
right? Rather than just the ones who I think have a good chance, right?
Mhm.
And then already like within 2 months of applying to awards, I got 3 of them back as winner. I think another 2 or 3 was a finalist.
Mhm.
I still put those badges on my site,
Yeah.
finalist, and we're still waiting on like I think 25 more.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So then when it comes to recommending to people, like, because obviously you said that looking for job or a new career is a numbers game, but people still have to apply to the thing that they're passionate about. So would you tell them that they have to kind of narrow it down a little bit more than just throwing their resume blindly and then in a hope that one's gonna bite the bait? Or they have to really focus more on the thing that they love doing and not waking up every single morning and saying, "Oh God, not another day," kind of thing.
Oh yeah, that's part of the preparation in the interview part, not the interview part, the resume part that I said it has to be a really good resume. So, uh, what we do is we write a highly targeted resume for one title. So like a highly targeted resume for the accounting manager title in real estate, not for hospitality hotel management, right? But for accounting in real estate specifically, like that specific resume. And then you only apply to those kinds of jobs with that title with that resume. If you're applying to something different, like you're like, well, I want 2 options, then you have a second resume specifically made for, let's say you're like, I also like graphic design, then you have a second resume for graphic design. Like they're 2 separate things, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have to basically customize the resume based on the specific position that you're looking for. But
Yes.
if someone has a lot of passion or for different industry, are they going to have 10 or 15 different resume?
That's interesting. So I actually read this book. I don't remember what it was called, but this person, she said, I live a passionate life, but people think it came easy to find my passion and then to be able to do the things I'm passionate about. She said no. What she did was she made a list of that 10 to 15 things that she liked, and then she literally she said, "Okay, I'm just going to work at the top of this list what I think I'm interested in, and I'm just going to see, do I enjoy this lifestyle? Does it work with my personality?" She doesn't know that stuff yet, right? You don't know until you try. She said, "I'm just going to go down this list, and if it doesn't work, then I move on to the next one on the list." So she would stay at a job for like 3 months, 6 months, and then she would say, "I quit. I'm gonna look for the next job on my list."
Yes.
So she would be like the serial job quitter hopper onto the next thing until she did finally find what she was passionate about, and then she settled for that, right? My my philosophy is a little different. I think that's too much life change for me. I like routine.
Okay.
I like stability. So what I actually did for myself is when I was 18, trying to figure out myself, I went to the library. I went to New York Public Library every single Friday, and I would just walk through the stacks, and I would just like take the books that I was like, oh, that looks interesting, and I would just like walk home with like 15 books.
Wow,
Yeah,
okay.
I would like literally check out with 15 books, and I would read them. And I figure if I can hold my interest in something, reading about this subject, multiple books, then it could be a potential career I want to enter. The thing is though, like I read so many like topics, a lot on energy healing, a lot on yoga, art, clothing, sewing, like those kinds of things. But they didn't stick. In the end, they didn't stick. And then the thing that I found was most practical, which is personal financial management, which I didn't do it because I enjoyed it. That I was like, oh, I should go to the library to read this book because I'm passionate about it. I actually read those books because I was earning a minimum wage and I needed to learn how to live on minimum wage. And I was therefore I was reading it every day simply because it was practical. It took me 2 years to realize actually wait, this is my passion. I keep reading about it after 2 years.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely. So now, do you still have that same passion for accounting as you did when you started in your job? Because I know that 86% of American, Annie, they just wake up every single day hating what they do. So, and but yet it appears to me that no one is really taking any step forward to be able to make a change, either because they're so comfortable in a job that pays their bill, that pays their lifestyle, that pays whatever it is. But is that sufficient enough to live a happy life?
I admit I get bored. But that's part of like having high IQ is you get I think bored easily because once you learn something and you're competent and you're like I haven't once you've gotten past a certain learning curve, especially if it was initially very high, then it just becomes routine, mundane stuff. Then you're like, what's next?
Yeah,
Right?
what's
Yeah,
next?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That always happens to me, always, and it's like this constant thing. So unless I'm like learning new things at my job, which I hit that, I hit that plateau a year in. I learned everything at the job. It became routine. I was like, what's next? And my boss is just like, I don't know. Like I don't know what else to give you. Like I just want this specific stuff done. So then I was like, okay, can I take time off? Like if I finish the work because I do it quickly now, can I just leave for the remainder of the day and I use that time to learn new things, do the things I want to do? He's like, sure. Right. So I shortened my day. I worked 15 to 20 hours for him instead of 40 for the same pay. And then the others is spent on the things that bring me that intellectual I don't know,
Challenge.
stimulation that I need, right? So that's why I'm like, oh yeah, I've learned how to do my makeup, I've learned a bit about fashion. Now I'm like, what's next, right? Maybe I
Yes.
want to go to modeling school. Like it's like this always like what's next to keep me interested, even for accounting. So the things I talked about are outside accounting, right? Even in accounting I'm a little bored, but then what's next? I just found out yesterday, actually, the property management company that we fired that was managing the HOA in the building I live in, we fired them 3 months ago. I looked through the books and I found out that they embezzled $6,000 from us, right? So I'm like, well, what's next? I'm gonna take them to court, you know. And what happens after we win? I'm gonna turn this into a class action lawsuit.
Wow,
And
okay.
then what's after the class action lawsuit? I want to turn it into law that when a property management company manages for an HOA, they're required to give a certain set of reports by law. I want to change the law. Like literally, what can you do in accounting? There's so much you can
Yeah,
do.
yeah, so yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, it's something also when you look at the level of ambition that you have, because of always the what's next that will challenge you, that will bring you to a point of having to learn something new, so you do not get bored. So that becomes kind of like not a vicious cycle in a negative way, but I would see this to be very positive. So it's always wanting to get to learn something different that will be able to make you unique in what you do. So, but yet people have become living zombies most of the time because they just go with a momentum that they're in. They no longer think about what will make me happy. I'm just headed to do my 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, whatever it is, and that's that. So is there a way for them to say, you know what? maybe if they're good in what they do, they could shorten their week and then utilize that additional time to be able to go and do something that they're passionate about. But yet they're too afraid. I mean, you have a very flexible and open-minded employer, that I would admit. Not many will accept that. They're just gonna say, you know what, if you're done with your work, but you still stick on your desk and you still try to do something unique or try to do something different. But they don't have that luxury.
No,
So
he tried to fire me. So when
okay. Now we get the
yeah,
truth.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So when I asked him, can I work remote, cut my hours and do the stuff I want to do, he didn't like that. He's actually, in fact, very old-fashioned,
Okay.
and I still have to meet with him in person once a week on Thursday. So even if I leave town, I gotta be back by Wednesday because I gotta meet him on Thursday, right, in person. He's old-fashioned in that way. Um, but it's okay, right? But then like one day I saw so I do accounting, I see a ZipRecruiter charge on the company credit card. I was like, who's he hiring? Like, what's the $600 ZipRecruiter charge on a credit card for? And then I look it up because it's a public job posting, right? I can't log into the account, but I can go on Google and look for the
The
company
company,
name
yeah, of
and yeah,
course.
yeah. And he was looking to replace me. And
Oh,
yeah. And then I was like, well, I'm not gonna say anything. I mean, good luck to him finding my
finding someone.
replacement.
Exactly.
But I'll still be very polite and professional when he does find a replacement. And then 1 month later, he says in a meeting, I tried to replace you. I was like, yeah, I know. And and he goes, I can't find anyone that I like.
Okay.
Can't find anyone that I like. I like you. I like your work. Everyone else that messages me, it's not the same. I've looked through their resumes and none of them impressed me. I want to make this relationship work. I said, me too. you know,
And
yeah.
all the power to you, Annie. Absolutely. Well, you like, it reminds me of Albert Einstein when he was working for the Trade Commission, like in down in Virginia, and he said that he was working a portion of the time that he was working on the work that he was supposed to be that he was assigned, and the rest of the day he was finishing his day at in 2 hours, and then he did the theory of relativity. So it's quite interesting that you're doing somewhat the same because obviously you do not want to get bored, and him either. So you have the right IQ to be able to at least have the luxury to be able to do more than what you were assigned to do, and of course, continue on with whatever you're passionate about.
Yeah. And I just want to also share because you were talking about like, oh, other people don't even know what they like. I still think about this question. These are like still questions I ask myself to this day. Like last week, I literally wrote down in this notebook, what do I want in my life? I'm still thinking about it. It's a constant question. What do I want to do?
Okay.
Where do I want to live? And last week I literally said I want to buy a piece of property in Bali, another property in Japan. I want to create a course. Like I still write this down, right? Because I felt like I was getting off track myself. I was like, why do I have all these obligations in my life that some don't really bring me joy? So I still always, it's a constant thing to make sure that things in your life do bring you joy.
So, what would you recommend to our listeners, Annie, for those who have the slavery mindset that they possess, that they cannot get out of because they're too afraid of whatever is out there and they do not want to take the risk to change whatever they're doing at this moment, even though they're not really 100% happy. So, how to get out of this mindset, how to encourage them to be able to kind of take that leap of faith, that leap forward that will probably, and it's not nothing is 100% guaranteed. They could end up with a worse outcome, but a better outcome. But with risk, it's everywhere. So what would you advise?
I would advise that there is a difference between courage and confidence. I was scared myself. I remember being 18 to 20 years old. I was really lost and I was scared what my future would hold for me if I took a step that was different from my peers. What if I don't go straight to college? Am I going to work at McDonald's the rest of my life? I was scared. That's how, I mean, I was so scared. I was reading financial books every day to make sure I can save money, right?
Yes.
Like, that's the level of fear that I had. And actually, I kept having that fear up until only 3 years ago.
Okay.
That fear was a very big motivator, right? Um, I had to learn to just deal with the fear. So I recognize this feeling in my body. What do I like the physical sensations when I feel this anxiety and this fear, I notice my heart is pumping fast,
Okay.
my neck tenses up, right? All these different things. And then I recognize that, wait a minute, courage doesn't feel good.
Okay.
We look at heroes in our society, people we look up to, our role models, that we always say, wow, that person has so much courage. But then, wait a minute, just because it's a positive thing, courage is a positive thing, actually, courage never felt good for anybody. That's courage. Courage is you feel fear in your body and you're just like, I'm just going to do it anyway. Okay, let's see how this goes.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, courage doesn't turn into confidence until you're really good at what you do.
That's an interesting way to look at it, actually. So, okay, then putting aside the courage and the confidence, for those who actually are seeking to have more confidence, is there like a quick fix way for you to be able to advise people on how to kind of talk to themselves, like laws of attraction, words of affirmation, to tell to themselves that they could accomplish this, they could make it happen, either meditate a little bit more or so on and so forth? What kind of like exercise would you recommend before we conclude this podcast?
Yeah, there's actually this way of doing affirmations. It's in my book here. Let me read it. So I follow this kind of template. I use an in-between affirmation before the full one. Like, let's say I'm struggling with learning music theory. That's what I was struggling with. My thought was, music theory is so complicated and difficult to learn. I'm never going to be able to get this. Right? That's a limiting belief. I mean, so many people learn it, but I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not smart enough to learn this, right?
Yes.
But if I start using affirmation, I can learn music theory. I'm not gonna believe that. That's like full of bullshit, right? So what I do is I use this template. I am learning to blah blah blah. You know, even though music theory is difficult, I can still learn it. I'm open to the idea that I can learn music theory. I'm looking forward to the day that I really learn music theory. It's possible that I can learn music theory.
And like
So it's so
transition.
there's this initial transition that you start the affirmation with to get you to the full affirmation.
So it's kind of like building confidence on top of confidence. It's kind of like it's not going cold feet or cold
Hmm.
turkey, whatever it is. So it's like when you put your foot like in a body of water, you just put the tip of the toes on the water to see if it's cold or hot. So it's the
Hmm.
same way. It's kind of like don't jump ahead first. Wait to see if the temperature of the water is comfortable.
Yeah, so instead of saying like the words like I can live a passionate life, which sounds like what kind of world we live in? Is
Yeah.
this rosy, you know?
Yes.
It's possible I can live a passionate life. Well, it's possible anything can happen. I can die tomorrow. Like anything, there's a million possibilities. So one of them is it's possible I can live a passionate life. And then once you get comfortable with that, then you move on to I can live a passionate life. You know, like it's the one that you can latch onto that has truth in it. When there's truth, you can believe it with comfort, and that's what helps you move forward mentally.
Beautiful. Well, Annie, that is all the time that we have for today's podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. And thank you again for participating and inspiring our many listeners with your incredible knowledge. Now, we hope that you've all enjoyed today's episode. And I'm also very excited about the many upcoming guests that we have scheduled for season 21 of the Happiness Journey podcast, filled with inspirational stories, just like the one that you listened today. Now, here are some concluding words of wisdom. Break free from the shackles of the slavery mindset. Erase the mental chains that bind you to your potential. Embrace empowerment and liberation in every thought and action. Refuse to be confined by self-doubt or fear. Rewrite the narrative of limitation with one of boundless possibility. Cultivate a mindset of resilience and self-belief. Your thoughts shape your reality. Choose freedom over captivity. Rise above, soar beyond, and embrace the infinite potential within you. The journey to liberation begins in the mind. Unleash your power and create your destiny. My name is Dr. Dan Amzalag, and you may all keep pursuing your amazing journey in life.